Thank you for joining this side event with the Blockchain Climate Institute. We're very grateful to the government of South Africa for hosting this event at the Pavilion. So thank you very much, all your excellencies and ministers, for doing this great honor for us. Today's topic is going to be about unlocking clean energy access by integrating AI, distributed ledgers and smart technologies in community energy schemes. The BCI has partnered with various countries around the world to do these specific implementations, and we would like to show that to you today and dive deeper on how these things can benefit clean energy and climate. We will have various speakers coming here. So to start with, we're going to invite Priscilla Jesse to just spend a couple of minutes to introduce us and the topic. And she's from the main state-owned energy utility for South Africa, Eskom. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm Priscilla Jesse. I'm responsible for sustainable finance at Eskom. And as you know, that South Africa is very passionate about the justice part of the transition, and definitely Eskom is at the heart and at the forefront of transition. We had our first pilot of our first jet pilot, and through that pilot, we have learned a lot of things, especially in taking the community with, and including the repurposing, not only the repowering, but repurposing initiatives that will benefit the community. So there's also a report by the Presidential Climate Commission on the first jet pilot for South Africa, and that is really articulating on those lessons learned and the importance of not leaving anyone behind, and what is more importantly, engaging early with the community. So taking communities along is vital aspect, in this session, because when we are talking of the blockchain, through blockchain we can have a platform, an opportunity to bring the communities with in terms of trading also. So whether being the rooftop solar, whether being the mini grids in our repurposing and repowering, we also having the initiatives in terms of manufacturing the microgrids. So through those technologies and encompassing the blockchain technology, we are able to really trade and make sure the community are not only encouraged to decarbonize, but they are incentivized for decarbonation, and there is value in that. So I think it's very encouraging to partner and to collaborate with institutions like the blockchain, climate institution, to enable South Africa to get to that level, because South Africa is working on solutions and financial compensation mechanisms for the community, for the residents to be able to trade. So this will definitely enable them to do that, and not just on the distribution side, as Eskom has already started to engage with the regulator in terms of making sure that this is enabled, because we can't without the regulation, but also South Africa as a whole can benefit a lot in such technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that great introduction. And it's great to see the energy firms taking a deep interest in South Africa on this topic, and I think it's something that we're going to dive a bit deeper into as we go. Right, so our next speaker will be the Director General of the Blockchain Climate Institute, Director General Alistair Mark, who will take us through some of the how blockchain and AI can integrate together to help us in energy transition. Thank you, Alistair.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, before we talk through our pilot case in other countries address the issue of load shedding, hopefully in South Africa soon, let me just introduce briefly what BCI, the Blockchain Climate Institute, does. The BCI is a hub of global experts shaping tomorrow's technology solutions for leaders, governments, and private sectors. Where we dive into research, develop technology policies or regulatory frameworks, and guide prototyping in countries. So all to drive informed decision and progress for more UN member states who want to benefit from these emerging digital technologies on a level playing field. So today I'm pleased to give you a very simple, non-technical overview of how blockchain technology can enable your country to deliver more clean energy actions at much lower cost, but much higher speed, but with higher impacts. So in short, the BCI brings together international experts to provide source of knowledge and guidance on the deployment of emerging technologies to world leaders and decision makers, including across both governments and intergovernmental bodies, as well as private institutions. We undertake research and develop technology policy solutions around the UNFCCC Technology Transfer Framework. At least 4 of the focuses there are actually our focuses, including capacity building, technology information, provision of enabling policy environment, and supporting mechanism for technology transfers, at least regionally. We're glad to see blockchain finally included in the list of capacity building items in an informal note of from SB58 in June, in Bonn this year, and then we hoped to deliver our mission even better with more stakeholders, particularly in South Africa. Okay, now let's talk very briefly on blockchain. So. There are a lot of challenges for global climate governance or any governance in any aspect at all. Economists have been studying how the people make decisions, act individually, in groups, and exchange value for centuries, as people tend not to trust each other. This is a problem. The mistrust comes from the concerns about integrity and the transparency, while it results in lots of monitoring, reporting, and verification, MRV assurances, that have been dominating our negotiation agenda out there, actually over the last 25 years. But now there's a new player in town that's about to change almost anything, change the game, which is the blockchain, or more professionally, we call it distributed ledger technology, DLT. It is the underlying technology that was made famous by Bitcoin, but it's not Bitcoin, actually Bitcoin is just an application on the blockchain network. So blockchain has the potential to revolutionize how we exchange anything of value. For decades, we've had the Internet of Information. That's what you've been using on your phone, on your desktop, laptop for over the last 2 decades. The Internet of Information, which we're using now, democratized the sharing of data. But when it comes to valuable assets like money and bonds, sending a mere copy is not good enough. We relied on centralized intermediaries like banks and big corporations for this trust building exercise throughout any transactions in our current economic model. These intermediaries have their own issues, including exclusion, slow transactions, high transaction costs, or even data capture issues. It varies from organization to organization. So what we could have an internet of value on top of the internet of information that we're using now. This is where blockchain comes in. In 2008, Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto introduced blockchain as a decentralized database that secure transaction through cryptography. It's a revolutionary way to record ownership and transaction. As early as 2015, the Economist machine even called the blockchain the trust machine, and the most important invention since the internet. So what is blockchain? Trust is established through collaboration and smart code rather than big institution in the blockchain environment. To make it simple, blockchain design make it secure and tamper-proof. It's just a decentralized database in layman terms. Every transaction is synchronized in a block with a unique identification code. It is like a global ledger monitored by miners who validate transaction and link them into an unbreakable chain. That's why we call it a blockchain. The blockchain security is unprecedented, and we start to call it a new world of securities. Blockchain is not an app, it's not a company. It's quite close to Wikipedia, where anyone can read and write things on this distributed or decentralized database. To hack a transaction platform, a hacker would need to manipulate every preceding blocks across millions of computers on the blockchain, all while dealing with the highest encryption without a single second delay. This is economically unviable for hackers to do so. So that's why blockchain has commanded a lot of trust from financial services industry over the past 5 to 6 years, as they invested millions and millions of dollars to blockchainize their transaction systems. It's a significant leap in security compared to our current system. Okay, there are some key benefits when we use blockchain for climate action in general. Ladies and gentlemen, we have identified 4 main application areas for blockchain in Southern Africa, including renewable energy, disaster risk insurance, sustainable urban management, and biodiversity conservation. In BCI, we have at least one pilot project in every continent now. Today, I will focus only on renewable energy, which concerns a lot of friends, colleagues in South Africa. In South Africa, we hope to bring in some ideas to support your governments or any subnational authorities in addressing the load-shedding issues with a pilot project experience in Indonesia, which we have just completed 2 months ago, where we have just introduced Indonesia's first ever peer-to-peer solar energy trading with a blockchain system in 2 very remote, even off-grid communities. Thanks to the funding from the British Foreign Office and Innovate UK, this pilot project evaluates the real-world applications of a peer-to-peer electricity market on a community basis. It's designed to increase energy security, stability, and solve the energy trilemma. We also aim to motivate local women's groups to raise their awareness of using renewable energy and run their community energy systems. So let me briefly introduce our project and experience in Indonesia. Based on our local surveys in this technical assistance project, we selected 2 very remote villages. One is Purwokerto, which is in central Java province, and one in Balikpapan, which is another offline island, to pilot this blockchain innovations to electrify the communities at a very low cost. And in Purwokerto, for example, we worked with the local governments and partners to recruit 20 households to participate in this pilot electrification scheme, which we have completed in September. In Pilot per Pound, we collaborated with a local company to install rooftop solar panel on a staff quarter. Okay, let's talk about something more exciting. On both sides, we helped them set up a mini grid in a secure government property. We installed 11 solar panels, each of which supplies electricity to one participating household. And each household is given a smart meter, which is connected to the blockchain-enabled mobile phone app to trade surplus electricity automatically whenever there is any household with surplus electricity who can feed back to the mini grid so that their neighbors can get the electricity downloaded from the mini grid at a pre-agreed price and pre-agreed volume in terms of kilowatts per hour. And it's stored in a large battery on site automatically. So our final site inspection in Purwokerto was completed in September, and we saw all the participating houses well electrified when we just launched the system. And it has been running quite well generally. In just a second, I've invited our BCI fellow, Dr. Luke Riley, who will talk you through virtually the design of our energy trading blockchain, which, in our opinion, is highly replicable to most South African communities.
Thank you very much, Alistair, for that enlightening presentation, and everyone can hopefully see the potential for blockchain in this space to tokenize solar energy, but it could be extended to many other areas. So hopefully we have the presentation, next presentation from Luke Riley, who couldn't be with us today, but has something recorded for us, and we can play the video. If the sound can come through, would be appreciated.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, my name is Luke Riley, and I'm part of a team that built the Blockchain and Climate Institute's prototype peer-to-peer electricity trading system. Before getting into the detail of the prototype, I wanted to give you a high-level overview of the goals. Most energy markets today are centralized with a small number of providers. In Indonesia, there is in fact one energy provider, PLN, who has a monopoly on power transmission and distribution. In other energy markets, where individuals can produce their own energy locally, for example via solar panels, these individuals may still struggle to sell excess energy at a convenient time, or they may struggle to gain a fair price. Both of these problems affect innovation and investment in this domain. Ideally, we propose that we should move towards a more decentralized and peer-to-peer energy trading market, where there will still be large providers, but these large providers will be complemented by individuals and SMEs who can sell their energy back to the grid at a fair price and in a reasonable time period. We believe that blockchain is an ideal technology for this new type of energy trading market. This is because blockchain is built to be decentralized and also promote individual ownership of assets, which would be tokenized energy in our case. Also, blockchain allows smart contracts to be used, which are essentially small self-executing programs which cannot be edited once they are deployed. In our prototype, we use smart contracts for creating the tokenized energy and for allowing peer-to-peer trading of this energy. So how did our prototype work? I will explain it in this diagram. In step 1, the electricity produced by the solar panels are stored in the battery system, which will be distributed to the connected smart meters. In step 2, each smart meter sends electricity usage data to the local router. In step 3, the data is received by a gateway device which analyzes the supplied data and sends it to our back-end system. In step 4, the back-end system uses the given data to tokenize the energy on the blockchain and assign these tokens to each user. The number of tokens held by each user is used in order to understand how the real energy should be distributed. This tokenized data is now viewable for users to see via a front-end app. In step 5, when there is electricity usage, such as turning on a TV, the smart meters will start calculating how many kilowatt hours of electricity is being used and who used it. In step 6, the smart meters and local routers will continue sending electricity usage data to our backend system via the gateway device. In step 7, the backend system is updated. Tokens are deleted from the account of the user who consumed the energy. The front end will now be updated so that each user can see real-time tokenized data. In this example, the user's energy is decreasing and the user can see exactly how much electricity is left for him to use. In step 8, as the user's remaining energy available reaches 0, the backend system will send a command to open the relay on the smart meter to cut the electricity flow. In step 9, as the command to open the relay reaches the smart meter, the relay will open, disconnecting electricity flow to a user until this user buys more energy through an auction system or until the user's energy quota is renewed for the next day. The prototype's energy trading system can be described theoretically via this diagram. As you can see, there can be many bid and sell orders. Our app, in combination with our smart contracts, matches these orders. Our smart contracts, in fact, define the rules of our energy tokenization system. The main rules are, firstly, energy tokens can be held in user wallets and deleted when the related energy is used up. And secondly, the energy tokens can be traded between users. The backend system has the authority to delete tokens from a user's wallet, but only the user has the authority to trade tokens. Tokens marked for trading correspond to energy that now cannot be used by the seller and cannot be deleted by the backend system. This is implemented via the corresponding energy tokens being held in a secure smart contract escrow. This is to stop double spending of energy units. We can see a mock-up of the user's front-end app here. As we can see, the user has been assigned a particular number of energy tokens on the left screen, of which he has already used half, seen on the right screen. The user also has easy access to the trading system. In the prototype, the trading system was implemented in an auction style. That is, a seller puts energy up for sale, and there is a particular time limit when the energy can be bid on and bought. Bidders can choose to meet the buy it now price or put in a lower offer and hope that their bid remains the highest by the time that the auction ends. If a bid is successful by winning the auction, the tokens are moved to the buyer's account, and therefore the energy is now assigned to the buyer. Otherwise, the energy tokens, and therefore the related energy, is returned to the seller, who must now use it somehow. Note that as the app holds information about each user's location, therefore trades are matched between users where the energy can physically be transported between them. I will conclude this talk by describing in more detail about the blockchain technology used. We ran the prototype using Ethereum technology, as this is the market-leading blockchain technology that allows for smart contracts to be utilized. Additionally, Ethereum blockchains can be configured in multiple ways. Firstly, with a public permissionless setup where anyone can join as a node and anyone can also read the data. Secondly, with a public permission setup where only certain authorized entities can run the node, but everyone can read the data. Or finally, with a private permission setup where only certain authorized entities can run the nodes as well as read the data. Therefore, our prototype has maximum flexibility to be deployed on any of the mentioned setups in the future. The specific Ethereum blockchain network we chose was the public permissionless Sepolia test network. We chose this as firstly, public permissionless networks are quick to integrate, and a test network means that tokens on these networks have no real value. That is what we were looking for this prototype, as we wanted to focus on the application build and not the legal or political implications of creating thousands of real-world value tokens. On this slide, you can see screenshots taken from a Sepolia blockchain explorer. On the left is a transaction from our prototype that has created an auction for 5 energy tokens created in the Balikpapan village. On the right is the successful trade for 10 mock money tokens. You can look up these transactions and explore the related smart contracts at the links shown should you want to. In the future, we will look to deploy energy token contracts for different areas, further optimize our trading smart contracts, and improve our app based on user feedback.
So, a bit of a detailed deep dive, but we wanted to show you the video so you could see it was actually real. People talk about blockchain technology, they talk about technology all the time, about climate, and it's really good to see an actual real on-the-ground implementation of this technology helping a remote village to source their energy and to also make money doing so. I'd like to ask the audience actually, because it's good to get a feel of the audience's knowledge of blockchain technology. Could I ask for a show of hands of those of you that have heard of blockchain before? Brilliant. So you're all familiar with it. Fantastic. Leave the hands up. Yes? Leave hands up. Yeah? Right. So put your hands down if, not yet. wait. If you would describe yourself not as an expert. So we have experts in the room? No? No, are you sure? Okay. Okay. And how many of you today in the room are connected to solar panels or understand solar energy? Hands up. Okay. Good. So that makes this very relevant, right? So I'm hoping, hands up then, how many of you really understand this presentation? A good group, okay. And lastly, based on what you've seen, I know it's a bit of a long presentation. Given what you've seen, how many of you think this could be something that will be valuable in your countries where you come from? Wow. Okay, that's good to see. We're hitting the right spot then, which is really great. So I'm grateful for that feedback. Good. No, it's very powerful. So if you cast your minds on what was just discussed, you will also see that it's not just about solar panels. Where else could you tokenize value, right? So you could tokenize value in other ways. It could be wind farms. It could be any other way. It also opens up and democratizes the market. And this is important because it can scale on an industrial scale, this technology, and do it from an industrial perspective, but you can also democratize it to the people to be able to do it themselves as well, which is, I think, potentially a better or a complementary way to both help a technology transition and capacity building as well as climate change. So, I don't know if we've got our panel here. They're here. Okay, what we'll do, just before the panel introduction, there is one other video which Candice from our institute pre-recorded. She couldn't be here today, but it's around the question around the capacity building element of this. So when this project was done in Indonesia, it wasn't just about the climate angle and it wasn't just about the technology angle. It's also about technology transition and also including the local people in this. We spoke about this a bit earlier on. This is an important aspect of climate when we talk about just a transition, and it's a big topic at COP, taking the people with us on the journey. And so I would like to play, hopefully you have the other video for Candice. Thank you.
Distinguished delegates, esteemed colleagues, and honored guests. My name is Candice Dupree, and I'm the Director of Capacity Building at the Blockchain and Climate Institute, an organization committed to facilitating sustainability and climate action through distributed ledger technologies like blockchain and other emerging tech. Today, I would like to shed light on the human dimension of sustainable development. Picture a groundbreaking project, promising in its technological prowess, but lacking the understanding and skills embedded in the local community. It's like planting seeds without tilling the soil. The success of any initiative hinges on the ability of communities not only to comprehend, but actively engage with the technology and solutions introduced. Capacity building, then, serves as the bridge that connects the innovators with the end users. In the context of our recent project in Indonesia, it wasn't enough to just establish the solar-powered mini-grids. To ensure longevity, the project had to equip local communities with the know-how to manage and sustain these systems long after project completion. This approach transcends the technological aspect. It delves into the human dimension of sustainable development, which is not just about the innovative technology that saves the day. It's about the people who use it. By involving stakeholders, local community leaders, and women-led groups early on in our research project, communities came to understand the intricacies of the project, becoming stewards of its success. In diverse contexts, what works in one region might need adjustments for another. Capacity building facilitates this adaptability by allowing us to co-create solutions with communities and tailoring knowledge transfer to support its implementation. The insights gained from capacity building tools like interactive tech, community workshops, surveys, online courses, and so on create a dynamic feedback loop, informing adjustments and improvements to solutions that have been implemented. In conclusion, capacity building is not a procedural formality. It is a commitment to ensuring that the benefits of innovation endure. Article 6 calls on governments to educate, empower, and engage all stakeholders and major groups on policies relating to climate change. As we chart the course forward, let us not merely bring technology. Let us bring with it understanding, skills, and empowerment. Thank you.
Yeah, so we wanted to highlight that point as well, right? Because like we said before, it's more than just about the tech, it's more than just about the money, it's about the people as well. People have to be behind it. So what we're going to do next, we're going to have a panel, and people it is the nature of COP, where people come and go, people are in and out of negotiations, so you might find people coming in and joining the panel, so please bear with us. But we'll kick off anyway, and then as people join, we will add them to the panel, and I'll ask them immediate questions. So on our panel today, I'd like to invite our Director General from the Blockchain Climate Institute, Mr. Alistair Mark, to take his seat. The first time I'm pronouncing the names, I hope I get this right. I would like to invite Mr. Hubert Ruzibiza. Right, I got it good. From the who's a climate finance advisor from the African Green Infrastructure Investment Bank. So from a financing perspective, we need money, right? So he's going to join and talk about that as well. Dr. Luke Riley, you heard from before, cannot join us, and Candice from the Institute for Capacity Building cannot join us. But as soon as he's available, Mr. Amjad Abdullah, who's the head of partnerships at Arena, will be joining us as well, who can talk about some of the trends. But I'm going to kick off the panel anyway, and with a few first questions. And my first question was originally to Mr. Abdullah, so he's not here. I guess let's talk maybe about the financing generally. And I'm not expecting you to be a master on this topic, but in order to, these projects need money, right? In order to buy the solar panels, in order to install them, in order to set up the technology. And it's humble amounts of money. It's not the millions, right, necessarily, but the value is quite large. We had this project funded from Innovate UK. It was more of a grant-based prototype. But in order to actually do this on a bit of a larger scale, what are the kinds of challenges or the kinds of things you need to see from a sustainable finance perspective that would help people make those business cases for sustainable finance? And that was to, Mr. Rizibiza. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for inviting me for this panel. Thank you, Mark Lester. I've been, so a bit of background. So I've been really at the verge of finance, public finance, private finance, understanding the different contribution of each capitals, from public funding, from government supports, what is needed from government to pave the ground for investments to flow in. I've also done some work with foundations. So what comes to be critical as a common denominator is paving the ground for private sector growth. And for that, to pave the ground, you need catalytic funding. That catalytic funding could come from grants allocated to governments, and governments deploy those funding as part of their program. Or you also have foundations work that could also use that catalytic funding to support great ideas. And in this particular case of sustainable investments, I've also been lucky to work on programs in East Africa for financing productive use operator, so small ticket size, so not huge money. But at the same time, through the Africa Green Infrastructure Investment Bank, we also mobilizing big ticket size for in this implementation. So the story about the ticket size, why? Because you can have small tickets trying to accelerate SDG 7, but commercial banks will still look at it from a risk perspective, saying, look, it's too small for us, there's not enough collaterals, so why should we even use the entire time for small returns? The other conversation, big tickets, large infrastructure, energy projects, minimum $100 million, can go up to $1 billion. Well, everyone is excited. It's probably, I mean, from an investor perspective, you only need one deal of that size, and I think everyone is happy in terms of commissions. That's essentially the drive. But in reality, from a development perspective, our role is also to pave the ground for those solutions to thrive. So it's important to find innovative instruments that could support the acceleration of some of those SDGs, in that particular case, SDG 7, access to clean energy at an affordable rate. The usage of technology, in that particular case, AI, can also support that. So my humble advice would be to partner with professionals that can help you design the right investment vehicles, doing blended finance, mixing grants, private capital, but the grants will allow you to de-risk, be the first loss, or, I mean, just bringing to bankability the projects. And then from there, you create a business case for private investments or private money to come in at a lower exposure. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very well-articulated answer. I think it's a critical part of doing this stuff. So in the audience, from this perspective as well, just to give you a bit of engagement, if you were interested in doing this, this project in your countries, in your locations, would you know how to raise the finance for it? Hands up. Okay. Maybe a couple of people. So this is key, right? A key contact, a key in that place, right, to do that. Okay, brilliant. So I'd like to obviously welcome Mr. Hubert, I'd like to excuse me, Mr. Amjad Abdullah to the panel, who's Head of Partnerships for IRENA. Thank you very much for joining. We've been talking about distributed ledger technology, decentralized energy models, in this case, for solar panels and for communities to be able to put their own solutions in place and tokenize the electricity to be able to sell it. So from your perspective, what trends do you see in renewable energy in recent years and also going forward? And are decentralized models becoming something that is more prevalent or not really seeing those things yet?
Well, thank you. First of all, let me also thank for having me here again. We, as the only intergovernmental organization that has a mandate, global mandate, to promote the deployment of all forms of renewable energy across the globe. So we have been working since the inaction of the agency across the globe promoting this. But one of the fundamentals is still, of course, renewable was something that was an alien when we were established. But now we recognize that, it's a very crowded space, not only IRENA, but we are the only agency that is mandated globally. We have a global membership, 170 member countries already, and 15 in accession. So it's a global agency which promotes all forms of renewable energy. One of the fundamentals that I think we've been also fortunate to be part of the tripling of the renewable and energy efficiency pledge. We've been working very closely with the COP presidency to put that. I think the figure value that makes people really to understand, I think the World Energy Transition Outlook, which is the flagship program, flagship publication of IRENA, which indicates where we wanted to go and how much is required if we are to stay 1.5 or below to reach 1 by 2030. So the new narrative, again, I think, which I'm pleased to share the same narrative which my Director General has alluded, is that, frankly speaking, it's not about tripling or quadrupling the renewable. Whether we like it or not, the energy infrastructure was meant to have fossil fuel. We need to change the new energy infrastructure has to fit for purpose. I don't think the current infrastructure have it. So this is one of the fundamental things that we are trying to change it. And I think this is also something that I thought maybe I'll just share with you, unless otherwise we change the new energy infrastructure. We call it new energy infrastructure. Otherwise, we promote, we go to the banks, they invest in renewable, but then at the end of the day, is it reaching to the people? No, we waste more than 50% on the ground because our networks are not fit for that. So we have to change it. Our ports, these all have to change to the new infrastructure. The other message that I also thought is that the financing, because I know that we have a financing facility which we have launched it. I think it's 5 billion now, the Energy Transition Accelerator platform, which is one of the flagship programs that IRENA manages with a number of, we work with the financial institutions. We don't do it, we work with the financial institutions. We make sure that we get the bankability of those renewable projects And then we get the partners, and then we make sure that it has an impact on the ground, which to me creates a confidence with the community so that it works. The third point that I also thought that is, frankly speaking, the new narrative for international cooperation. We cannot do business as usual because we don't have time. How did the world change after the Second World War? It was not this model. I think we had the Marshall Plans, which I call it Climate Marshall Plan. I think we need to have Climate Marshall Plan. Frankly speaking, otherwise we cannot wait because the speed is not with us. The time is not with us. So we have literally 7 years if we are to stay at or below 1.5 degree. It's not me who is saying that. It's the scientific community unanimously agreed that we are going to be off track if we don't scale up towards that. Thank you very much again. Happy to be here.
So there's a very interesting point around, I think what I'm hearing from that is that we need to scale and we need to scale quickly. This example was a local village or couple of villages in Indonesia. And while that's great for the local villages in Indonesia and it proves the concept, on its own is not going to solve the problem, right? So there needs to be major financial backing. These things need to be business cases. And from the audience in the room, I saw the hands went up when I said, have you heard of blockchain technology? Have you heard of the technology? Have you heard of solar panels? Everyone said yes. But when I asked, how many of you know how to finance those projects? Maybe half a hand went up. Ah, good, one hand went up, 2 hands. So the panel here has two members who have that knowledge around financing. And in my perspective as Sustainable Finance Research Director for the Blockchain Climate Institute, I have also an interest in that topic. On that note then, I'll leave it maybe open, but Alistair, I'll probably ask you this question. How do you feel that this technology, therefore, could be scaled across other countries, maybe with a similar use case of solar panels or something else, to help fast-track that energy transition?
Sure. Okay, thank you for this question. So now, given that our colleagues have presented even certain technicality of how this blockchain-based peer-to-peer energy trading works in communities, now what we're trying to do here is to build up the database and a knowledge base for all the stakeholders to ensure the bankability of these projects in the future. So right now we're thankful for the British Foreign Office who given us a certain amount of grants to make it possible for us to install these panels and the blockchain connections on 2 sites in Indonesia. However, as per my interpretation, the good news for South Africa is that since now BCI is a partner of the UNFCCC technology mechanism, and now the member states have agreed on the next 5 years of work program of technology mechanism where certain pot of money is being ring-fenced to support these types of AI, data, or blockchain enabled technology solutions. And energy transition is one of the key focuses there. So I believe that it is hopeful that South Africa will benefit at least from some seed grants from the CDCN, hopefully. Of course, I cannot talk on behalf of CDCN. This is just my interpretation from the outcomes of the meetings that I have observed. Yeah, and then secondly, I hope that with these data being built up from the existing functional pilot cases in Indonesia, in Europe, etc. Yeah, financial institutions like the Development Bank can re-evaluate the investment worthiness of these projects sometimes in our opinion, it is always these kind of community level energy projects which requires a lot less investment capital, but they generate a lot bigger impact at a much shorter time, such as the pilot that we have done. So I hope that in the next few years, there will be a lot more blockchain-based decentralized energy projects in communities, so that we don't have to be 100% reliant on traditional power plant to supply all our electricity.
Thank you very much for that answer. I think we only have a couple of minutes left. So maybe just as a group question, so Director General Mark, from your perspective, what challenges did we see on the project in terms of implementation, and what lessons can we learn? And also in terms of the economic stability, what insights did that project provide for the financial models for off-grid? And then off the back of the financial question, maybe we could get further comments from you, Mr. Rubizo, as well.
Yeah, so actually we've learned quite a lot of lessons from our Indonesia project pilot. First of all, it's about the installation of solar panel at the right seasons, because this is a realistic issue that we have to consider for Indonesia, which is multi-island nations with very different climatic patterns at every point. But I'm also aware that South Africa is not a small country, so first we have to identify, and in order to avoid the delays of all these installation projects, we need to make sure we pick the right season first. That's the first lessons learned. The second one is about the connection, the internet connectivity required in order to enable the household to do that. I understand that a lot of developing country communities might be quite concerned that we do not have enough internet connectivity on site if we want to use these blockchain. However, for our Indonesia project, we created everything from scratch for the communities. Our project even includes setting up internet connectivity facilities before we install anything. Yeah, and then it wasn't a too challenging engineering work for our local team, as long as we have the equipment on site. However, the most challenging part is the availability of labor, because at that time there was many other government infrastructure that drives away the engineers and laborers in their local communities. So this is another lesson we've learned in terms of logistics. Thirdly, is the connection between the solar panel and the blockchain applications. So we have spent so much time I think we've spent at least 2 or 3 months connecting the app and the solar panels, because we have to keep fine-tuning the performance of the smart meters installed in every household to make sure that the data transfer are smooth and the trading platform are well connected. So, but now the good news is that if we want to develop certain similar projects in a community of similar size, I'm talking about the size of 20 to 30 households to start with, then we've got the standard data to which we have to, the standard functionality to which we have to fine tune. Yeah, and then it means that for any second, third, fourth, fifth project we introduce in other countries, it will be a lot quicker to get it up and running. In terms of finance, maybe I'll ask Hubert to give us some more insights.
No, thank you, Dr. Alistair. I think I want to emulate on what you just said, because part of the de-risking involves everything you just mentioned, because if we can have capital that allow you to prepare your projects, in which some of the costs related to IT, maintenance, even before your project gets up and running and it starts to repay, there's a certain level that of preparation that needs to happen. And that's why we emphasize on blended finance vehicle that will allow your project to get to bankability. Bankability from a finance perspective, it means the project is viable. It's not to say risk-free, but we've been able to reduce the risk and the ability to repay over a certain period of time. And the problem is you can have great projects, great ideas, but no one is willing to support the feasibility study, the feasibility assessments, the preparation work that needs to get the project going. Simple as it is, think about incubation program. Think about, it's probably a funny example, but from 0 to 5, there's a certain way, of certain things that you need to give a child to grow in terms of food, in terms of clothing, and then past 5, another set needs to be provided between 5 to 10, and add up, all that up to 18 years old, up to 20 or something, so that the person is ready to be active and contribute to the society. So even for businesses, governments, with the support of development partner, could emphasize on incubation, blended finance vehicle where grants can be pulled in so that it supports the project preparations of those projects, so that we ensure that projects are up and running, generating revenue, but also having a strong capital market for exiting and capital raising in general. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're out of time, unfortunately. We could carry on for a longer, but we're going to take some photos now afterwards, and we'll be in the room. So if anybody in the room wants to partner, wants to talk to us more in detail about this, we'll be hanging around for a little bit longer, and we can discuss it in more detail. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time, and grateful to the government of South Africa for hosting us here today. Thank you. One more point.
Yeah, so actually I just checked the CDCN registry. So I know that the South Africa National Designated Entity is Department of Science and Innovation. And then I hope that if any of you would be interested in joining us or collaborating with us to bring in a pilot of this kind to your local communities, feel free to contact us, and then we'll try to work through your government's national focal points to make it happen.